Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the first week of February 2019. You may hear some noises in the background. Ignore the person behind the curtain. It's nothing, is it? Well, we've just gone through the polar vortex. How did you feel about it?
It was cold.
It was cold. It was so cold, people. I don't know if you posted this on Facebook.
I did.
But I had to use a hairdryer to get rid of the ice coming through the outlets inside the house. And then we had ice and snow coming through the front door.
And the garage doors.
And the garage doors would not work. And my car is dead. I can't even call anybody because there's nothing they can do. Minus 50 with wind chill and all. Sí, no, está bien.
So
Sí.
why do you always do that? Because in the US we say F.
Because of this most. You called me an F?
Yes.
You called me an. Well, F you then. You know.
That's not nice.
You know.
So it was minus 37 wind chill F.
See, I know that that's what you're calling me, but they don't understand this.
It's a secret code.
Yeah, and plus we had so much snow, and fortunately for me, my snowblower person actually showed up. How he was out there doing it in that temperature, I have no idea, because I went out just to let the dogs out I was like, I can't even stick my hand out there. It was terrible.
Very cold.
It was very terrible. Now we're in a warm up of like +2 centigrade.
Which is how much F?
You stop calling me names in front of everybody?
Tell him.
So it's like 36 Fahrenheit +2. But guess what? They said don't get used to it because next week they said there's a massive snowstorm and ice storm. So we always pay for when it gets above freezing, don't we? Anyway, I have some interesting news to tell you. It has to do with the issues going on, especially in the United States and the so-called, what they call the deep state, which according to this particular report, which you'll see on the link, they said the anti-Trump deep state is utterly out of control, and the deep state is a rogue, lawless cabal of treasonous criminals that want to overthrow the democracy and install a corrupt, authoritarian regime that will well, we already have that, right?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I said I don't know.
Now, you know who Roger Stone is. And Roger Stone,
I don't.
Yes, he is. Well, you know, he has a lot of different titles. He's kind of a political advisor for Trump, actually. And recently, an armed raid carried out against Roger Stone used 29 what they're calling federal thugs in tactical gear. And Stone is a harmless, elderly citizen. Actually, he's not much older than me. An elderly citizen with no criminal record and no history of violence. And so it proves that the left-wing deep state is a tyrannical, lawless regime that is trying to destroy America. Anyway, the corrupt FBI has now become the private army of Robert Mueller, or Mueller, I don't know how you say it actually in English.
We don't have Mueller in English, so I guess
how
it's
would you
Mueller.
say Mueller in English.
We don't even know who that is.
Yes. Carrying out lawless acts of domestic terrorism against innocent Americans, all while plotting with CNN to stage the theatrics for the... So here's the thing. They raided this Roger Stone's home in the middle of the night, but CNN had cameras there. So that means the FBI notified CNN to film it for, news. So they're in cahoots with each other.
And who's Robert Mueller?
He is the investigator that is looking into the Russian involvement with the United States, which there isn't any. Anyway, according to this information, the left-wing media are the enemy combatants waging a civil war against the American public. I agree with that. It says that there is a malicious censorship campaign. I agree. The justice system is fatally broken beyond repair. I agree. The FBI is a rogue agency, and the Department of Justice is run by lawless. I agree with all of this. And of course, according to the information, the FBI and the CIA are so corrupt that they will be eliminated completely in what is to come. And it also says that a remaining solution, it says that President Trump must declare a national emergency, release the FISA warrant documents and the massive classified documents that have not been that expose the criminality, to declare a national emergency due to attempted political coup being carried out against the president. Remember last week I spoke about Nancy Pelosi and her trip, and that was really a plot to assassinate President Trump and Vice President Pence. It also states that there should be an order that the military police seek out and arrest all deep state traitors and treasonous actors, including Barack Obama. You don't hear too much of it. He's like in hiding. Robert Mueller. Is that Mueller? Yeah. And all of those involved in the Obama treason. Declare Antifa and the illegal aliens engaged in human trafficking, drug trafficking, black market weapons, and terrorist organizations. They should all be arrested. And then it also says they should order the arrest and indictment of all the mayors and governors who have sanctuary cities and states. So you know what the sanctuary cities are? So these mayors and governors says that, like, for example, San Francisco is a sanctuary city. So all the illegal aliens and terrorists can go there and they're safe.
That makes sense.
Well, that's what they're calling it. Now, here's another thing, which I don't know if I agree with this part. There's a call for citizens to occupy and dismantle the enemy propaganda operations of New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, etc., who are conspiring against the American people.
That sounds like chaos.
Yes, I don't know, I don't agree with the violence. No. But it also says that includes Facebook, Google, Twitter, Apple, and all the other massive conspiracy coordinations to destroy freedom and so on. Now, I think that is a bit extreme, but it derives from the frustration of the American public, who knows what's going on, but their voices are not being put onto the media. In alignment with this, we have one son that's in Texas, and Texas officials are contacting county election authorities. You know why?
Why?
Because Texas Secretary of State Whitley, the state's top election official, said his office has been working with the Texas Department of Public Safety to determine whether non-citizens are participating in elections. And they have discovered that a total of 95,000 individuals are non-U.S. citizens who have voter registration in Texas. And approximately 58,000 of whom have actually voted in elections. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so they want to say that people suspected of not being citizens who are found can be contacted by local election officials and asked to produce a birth certificate or passport to clear up any citizens' questions. And I think that's a good idea, because Hillary actually used these fake voters to gain power, and she actually used pets and dead people to vote for her. Seriously. And then she claimed that there were like millions of votes that were not counted that should have been for her. That's because they were dead people.
Well, so she wanted to know where they went.
Yeah, they should. She needs to go with them. Now, here's another thing that's going on. During a White House press conference, National Security Advisor John Bolton was photographed carrying a notepad, which was from the National Security meeting, and was handwritten on there, 5,000 troops to Colombia. And the notepad was spotted by multiple journalists online.
So that means they purposely planted it for them to see.
Duh. And not only that, but when they zoomed in on it, it said Afghanistan, welcome to talk. So I guess that means they want to bring the Taliban into the sphere of influence. And then it said 5,000 troops to Colombia. Because they want to get rid of President Maduro, who was actually voted out of presidency, but he won't leave. And so, according to the White House, President Trump is leaving open the possibility of a U.S. military intervention to protect the opposition leader in Venezuela, Juan Guaido, and to help the American diplomatic personnel who are in Venezuela. So most likely, my opinion is most likely the United States and Latin American countries, most of Latin America is against Maduro, plus the EU, not saying too much about that, will support an overthrow of the Maduro regime very soon. Now here's something I find very interesting, going back to the United States. I'm sorry, but today is their birthday. They're 1 year old. Our little Russian Siberian puppies, they're not puppies, they're adults. They're 1 year adult, right?
Yeah.
But they still keep growing. A source who identifies herself as Lindsay B, must be a code in there, has a message about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And according to this report, we cannot say with certainty that it's true. However, there's rumors saying that Ginsburg is dead. She kind of is. But what this report is saying, Ruth is not dead, like others have suggested. She's in a medically induced coma at an undisclosed location. Ruth is deathly ill with pneumonia and has multiple infections related to her recent lung cancer surgery and the accident that fractured her ribs. I think somebody pushed her down. Now, the Democrats are doing everything they can to cover this up and keep Ruth out of the spotlight and alive through life support if necessary. They do not want, under any circumstances, that Trump picks another justice for the Supreme Court that would overthrow the Roe versus Wade abortion issue. And this is the part I don't quite exactly accept. They plan on continuing this charade until the 2020 election and will casually announce she has passed away after a new Democratic president gets into office. And if Trump still remains in office, they don't know what they will do. I don't think they're going to keep her alive for like another year and a half.
She might already be dead.
I'm sure she's dead.
But
because you know what?
It.
On January 21st, Fox News accidentally shows a graphic saying that she's dead. And they said, oh, that was a technical error. No, it wasn't. She's freaking dead. I'm sure that she's either dead or being kept artificially alive to prevent a new Supreme Court justice from being chosen. Mm-hmm. Now, to Iran. The deputy head of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said that Tehran's strategy was to eventually wipe Israel off the global political map. And he said that his troops had transformed into a, quote, forward-moving and offensive, quote, unquote, force. Now, I believe that the U.S. withdrew forces from Syria and Russia turns a blind eye to allow Israel to destroy Iranian forces. Because remember, 1930s, Soviet delegation in Tehran about to sign a deal to make Iran a Soviet republic like Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and so on. And then that fell through because Hitler started to invade Soviet Union. Anyway, so the Russians want Iran in their sphere. They can't publicly state that, so they're secretly allowing the Israelis to do this for them. More Israeli news.
There's a lot of Israeli news.
A lot. I'll tell you why. It's very important because a team of Israeli scientists think they found the complete cure for cancer. And quote, "We believe we will offer in a year's time a complete cure for cancer." This is Don Aridor, who is head of the Accelerated Evolution Biotechnologies Limited, called AEBI, which was created in the year 2000. AEBI developed the SOAP, S-O-A-P platform, which provides functional leads to very difficult targets. According to this, it's very complicated, but it's the introduction of DNA coding for a protein, like an antibody, into a bacteriophage, which is a virus that in fact infects bacteria. And according to this information, most anti-cancer drugs attack a specific target on or in the cancer cell, and then mutations occur or their physiological pathways change, which makes the targets not relevant to the cancer nature, and then all the cancer treatments are ineffective. But according to this, it's called mutato, or mutation mutato. They use a combination of several cancer-targeting peptides for each cancer cell at the same time, combined with a strong peptide toxin that would kill cancer cells specifically. By using at least 3 targeted peptides on the same structure with the strong toxins, the treatment will be effective and cancer cells can't mutate and are dropped by the cancer. Because it said instead of attacking receptors one at a time, we attack receptors 3 at a time, and not even cancer can mutate 3 receptors at the same time. It's very complicated, but it works. And they said it has a high probability of killing the cancer cell before detoxification occurs. That's detoxification for the cancer. So, according to this report, cancer treatment will eventually be personalized so that each patient will provide a biopsy to the lab, which will then be analyzed so they know which receptors are expressed, and then they administer the molecule cocktail needed to cure this disease. The cells would be killed. The patient could likely stop treatment only after a few weeks.
Well, that's better, because right now they just have a book and they flip through it and then...
right now it's ridiculous, and you know this from your personal experience with your family. And it says, our results are consistent and repeatable. So Israel will not only become a huge oil and gas supplier, it will also be the cure for all cancers. And I still have one more Israeli story.
Wow, another one.
Guess what?
What?
They said that robots can be built and trained to outpace and wipe out most of the ability of cyber criminals to harm society. And they said that eventually artificial intelligence techniques could be used to train robots to sufficiently understand the wide range of cyber attacks that would essentially put cyber criminals out of business. That's big.
Very big.
So this is why Arab countries are now warming up to Israel. They want the technology and the protection. Now here's a story from your homeland. Mm-hmm. Mount St. Helens is being closely monitored by scientists because it could blow up again. Mm-hmm. You were there when it blew up the first time.
I was.
How much ash did you have?
What do you mean?
On your land.
Well, it was all over the place.
But how deep was it?
Well, it covered everything. You know, depending on where the wind blew. Depending on how deep.
Well, guess what? It was revealed this week that lava domes are rising 5 meters per day. That's like over 15 feet a day coming up from the volcano. They said it's a viscous magma being pushed to the surface below and piling up. And according to this Dr. Lahusen, he said, what is really phenomenal is how much rock is still coming out of the ground. It's now taller than the Empire State Building.
Wow.
It's been thrown out by the...
And it's in the dome?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it says what they're calling the big one. It's a magnitude 9.0 impending earthquake that is set to destroy most of the northwest region of the United States with a 30-meter high, that's like 100 feet high tsunami wave.
So is this related to Mount St. Helens blowing
Yeah,
up?
it's all part.
How?
It's connected to the system. Northwest FEMA director Kenneth Murphy said that this natural disaster along the Cascadia subduction zone, a major fault line that runs from Northern California to British Columbia, is set to kill 13,000 people and injure another 2,500. And this person named Yume Huang, who's from the Oregon Geology and Minerals Industry, said that the major earthquake is more than 50 years overdue. The quake is predicted to last only 4 minutes, with a magnitude up to 9.2. When this happens, the northwest edge of our continent will drop as much as 6 feet and rebound 30 to 100 feet west. Not only will this cause landslides, but some of this will happen beneath the ocean, which will cause an enormous displacement of water. The water will rise into a massive hill and have one side go toward Japan, while the other 70-foot tall liquid wall goes toward the northwest coast, and to come within 15 minutes after the earthquake begins. So that's the end of Seattle,
Well,
Portland, Vancouver.
I'm surprised they say only affect 13,000 because...
Well, I think that's minimum. Earthquake. Here's the interesting. Earthquakes pose a major challenge with more than 143 million Americans living in areas of significant seismic risk in 39 states.
Well, that makes more sense, actually.
Now, the FEMA director for the Northwest, his name is Kenneth Murphy, said that everything west of I-5 will be toast. The area will be completely unrecognizable after everything has subsided. FEMA predicts that around 1 million people will be displaced after the event, and around 2.5 million people will be needing supplies of food and water. They estimate it would take 3 months before the area gets electricity back, another 6 months to fix highways, and yet a year to restore sewer systems.
You know, it's interesting, and I'd kind of forgotten about it until you told this article, is I have friends over in eastern Washington, and they had said that there are huge hospitals and Walmarts and other kinds of places that were built, and they said there's no people there to support that, and they thought it was so curious. This has been a couple of years ago they told me this. So obviously they're preparing for some kind of major emergencies.
So most likely it'll be way worse than that. And if you live anywhere from Vancouver to San Francisco, get the F out now.
Yeah, we keep telling people. All right, so speaking of Democrats, I have an interesting thing here. The Democrats want to strike "So Help You God" from the oath taken in front of key House committee.
Yeah, because they want to put Satan in instead.
It says a key committee in the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives is moving to eliminate the God reference from the oath administered to witnesses testifying before the panel as part of a new rules package expected to be approved this week. The draft shows that the House Committee on Natural Resources would ask witnesses to recite only, quote, "Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth," unquote.
So help you God.
The rule proposal places the words "So help you God" in red brackets, indicating they are slated to be cut. The words "under penalty of law" are in red text, indicating that Democrats propose to add that phrasing to the oath. Now listen to this one. The draft rules also remove the phrase his or her, and they want to replace it with the pronoun their.
Oh,
This would be in national law.
that's ridiculous.
Now, this one I didn't think was quite as ridiculous. They want to change the committee's chairman to refer only to the committee's chair. Because when I was in government many years ago...
How about chairperson?
Even just chair is fine. We did that many years ago.
That means that there's a chair, an empty chair that has all the authority.
While many federal oaths include the phrase, so help me God, some, and this was I didn't know, most notably the presidential oath of office does not include it. Which I didn't know. The full committee is set to vote on the new language this week. The rules would take effect immediately if adopted. And House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney said, quote, they really have become the party of Karl Marx, unquote.
That's the truth.
And now, speaking of politics, apparently there's a secret language that politicians use. It's not really a surprise to us, but what was interesting to me, speaking of dogs, is that they actually call it a dog whistle.
Oh.
And the dog whistle is what they refer when they have a coded language.
So no one else can hear it.
To manipulate the people, and it's usually targeted to a specific audience. So what they do is they talk about something and they show pictures or images, so you begin to associate what's already in your head. For example, that's what they did to make people think Barack Obama was a foreigner, things like that. So it's a very interesting...
He is a foreigner.
But that's, they put that out there without actually saying all these things. So that's the point of it, is to imprint you with a message that's visual, and they're expecting a certain target audience to have something in their mind and carry it forward.
Okay.
Okay, speaking of changing history, right, and remember, if you want the truth, Blue Blood, True Blood, that talks about galactic history, true world history, humanity's saga, fascinating topics. Anyway... Believe it or not, the National Italian-American Foundation, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, which is dedicated to preserving, promoting, and protecting the Italian-American heritage and culture, has asked the University of Notre Dame to reconsider its decision to cover the historic Christopher Columbus murals on its campus.
Cover them?
Notre Dame wants to cover them. The NIAF, or National Italian American Foundation, is asking them not to cover them.
Okay.
Okay, because on January 20th, Notre Dame's president announced in a written statement that they were going to be covered by a woven material.
But why?
The president wrote that they were painted in 1882 to 84, reflect the attitudes of the time, and were intended as a didactic presentation responding to cultural challenges for the school's largely immigrant Catholic population. In recent years, however, many have come to see the murals as, at best, blind to the consequences of Columbus's voyage for the indigenous peoples who inhabited this new world, and at worst, demeaning toward them all. Now, the NIAF vice chair explained that it's important not to erase our history. He said, this is not the first time that Christopher Columbus has been under attack. We should remember that this is a Catholic institution, and at some point we have to remember our history. We cannot be covering it up. History is complex. We cannot walk away from our history. We cannot cover up our history.
But they do.
At the end of the day, we have to have an honest conversation. And then the president of the NIAF wrote also directly to the president of the university, quote, it is both unfair and totally unrealistic to apply today's political norms to a historical figure from 500 years ago. If the practice of applying today's standards to historical figures made sense, there would be a strong argument to remove memorials and monuments to individuals from Thomas Jefferson to George Washington.
Right. Just knock everything down.
Both of whom were supporters of the abhorrent practice of slavery. And then he continues, while there remain serious scholarly debates about certain attitudes and actions of Columbus, he alone should not be burdened with the entire fate of Native Americans. We do not believe the University of Notre Dame should take this unilateral action and seek to erase history, simply to appease a small number of vocal Columbus detractors.
Now, as you know, in our January class, I had a whole section on Christopher Columbus, and what they're saying is absolutely not correct. And in my new book that's coming out, I will reveal the truth about it.
Yes, and the point that we want to stress here is that everybody's trying to erase history, and if you don't understand your history, you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going, and people will repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. We need to know what our history is. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but is this person...
Just because it isn't nice doesn't mean you knock it over and cover it up.
Like you said,
you have to see the truth as the truth,
exactly.
Ugly or otherwise.
Absolutely. It was 500 years ago. We need to know what happened 500 years ago.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're going to repeat it.
Right. Now, here we go. This is another thing. One of my favorite topics, which I like to say is ridiculous. There's a report by the Lancet Commission on Obesity in New Zealand, which said a tax on red meat was an example of the urgent action needed to address the greatest threats to human and planetary health: obesity, undernutrition, and climate change. This came out of the University of Auckland, saying that agriculture production accounted for about 50% of all greenhouse gas emissions in New Zealand. How in the world could they ever measure that, which I think is ridiculous?
Not even true.
Foods high in saturated fat, sugar, and salt. And we all need salt. That's something that people don't understand.
Sea salt.
Sea salt because of its mineral content. So if you take away the salt, you're going to get sick. Including red meat were the biggest cause of ill health and premature death, he said. A reduction of red meat consumption through taxes, redirected subsidies, and labeling would improve diets, prevent obesity and cancer, and free up land for more sustainable crops, providing opportunities to reduce undernutrition and greenhouse gas emissions.
So how many vegetarians do we know that have freaking cancer and dead from it?
Yep. Well, listen to this. There's a group in New Zealand called Beef and Lamb New Zealand. That's who, the beef and lamb producers belong to. Said that the country does not have an issue with overconsumption of red meat, and tax would drive vulnerable groups to even less healthy and sustainable foods.
That's right.
And now listen to this, because this is what I tell people here in the U.S. as well and all over the world. 80% of New Zealand's sheep and beef is produced on steep or rolling hill country, which is unsuitable for other types of agriculture. And our farmers are recognized as some of the most sustainable in the world thanks to our grass-fed and free-range systems. So right now the government does not plan any tax at this time, but it doesn't say that it won't.
It's just a way of weakening the public, like taking the proteins away.
And putting fear into people. You need red meat in your diet. And
yes,
I just gave an article a week or two ago about in New Zealand about how that people are more iron deficient and they're winding up in the hospital as a result. So you do need iron. And you need red meat for a variety of reasons. It builds your DNA. And then women, this also comes actually out of New Zealand, but it's specifically talking about Britain, that women have been advised to take the pill wrong for decades, it says, which causes them to have unnecessary periods and increased risk of pregnancy. Britain has recently changed its official guidelines to reduce the risk of unplanned pregnancies because the guidelines tell women it's safe to take the pill continuously and advise a shorter 4-day break for those who still wish to take it. Now, according to this article, it says the 7-day placebo was introduced in the 60s to mimic a natural menstrual cycle and appease the Catholic Church. But they claim that bleeding is not a real period. So family planning in Britain has been promoting continuous use of the pill for over 5 years, recommending that women ignore prescription instructions and run the packets together. Now, New Zealand does not have official guidelines, so apparently the women get different advice depending on who prescribes the pills. So anyway, it just goes on and on and on, saying that things are different than they were 200 years ago because women used to have more babies, which meant they used to have less periods, which meant that they're ovulating less. And now they're saying because of this continual ovulation, they have more risk for cancer. So who knows what's true or not.
That's not true.
And Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and I always tell you about the sex in there.
Go on.
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, guess what she's done?
I know what she did.
She wrote personal messages to women being helped by a charity that seeks to help sex workers break free from prostitution. So, like, this is going to help. They actually showed a picture. I would have thought this was fake news, but there were bananas in lunches destined for the food parcels to be handed out to these women. And they show Meghan writing on these bananas, "You are strong, you are special, you are brave," with hearts next to them. How ridiculous is that?
She wrote that on a banana.
Yeah.
And sex workers.
Yeah, and it's just ridiculous.
She's brain dead herself.
Well, she's just...
totally mindless.
Whatever the script is.
And I figured out why she's always holding her...
Why?
Because it's probably fake. It is a prosthetic. And she's like afraid it's going to fall off.
Yeah, well, probably. I'm sure she has a
I'm sure
surrogate.
her little lizard baby's in an artificial womb somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. So she's got a surrogate, I'm sure. Anyway, it says that she was inspired when she heard of a program that a woman started in the U.S. for school children. That they wrote affirmations on the bananas and it made the kids feel empowered.
Seriously, a banana for sex workers.
Yeah.
Hello.
And she's the Sussex, Duchess of Sussex. So there's...
And I'm sure the Queen thinks it's just lovely.
You have to remember she's following a script.
She's a mindless, empty-headed bobo.
They all are because they're following a script. Okay, so don't follow people's scripts. I'm out of 13 cubed. I sold the last one last week.
You did? Oh my God, we have none left.
Well, I've got more coming.
Okay.
So that is a 13 cube, which I can't show you. True Reality of Sexuality. You want to add that to your personal library. I showed you the history books. We've got tons of healing books. Decoding Your Life is like a classic. You need this one, as it's a universal law. And then, of course, all our healing books. And, of course, we are starting in a couple of days. If you haven't signed up, you may be too late.
With the new webinars.
The new webinars. It's called Affirming You, based on my affirmations book. We're doing really great work.
Good.
This ongoing series will continue through the month of May, but I will tell you, you need to sign up now, because if you don't, you will be lost when the summer comes. You need this work. So with that said, what else
and
we got?
then I have Quito. I'll be in Quito March
9th and
10th.
And we've set our dates for the Italian trip. So it will be the end of June. I don't have the dates in front of me.
I thought you were going to arrive in Milan on the 14th of June.
Yes, and leave to go to the mountains on the 15th, and then I think we come back from the mountains on the 22nd. So it's an amazing trip. The food is fantastic. The water is amazing. I like that almost better than food. We always have a great group, and we have people coming already signing up from all over the world. And we have also, we will be walking the trails of the ancient Waldensians. If you don't know what those are, you need to know. Okay, it's in here, True World History, read about them, and remember there's a Catholic version online, so if you look it up online, most likely...
The Catholic version is a lie.
Right, you're going to get the false stuff, so you want the real stuff. And when we go to Italy, get the real stuff, because we eat with my family who are still Waldensian people. So we walk the ancient paths, and it's amazing, amazing trip.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's all we have for now.
All right.
And
like, comment, subscribe, and share. Remember, we do have 3 free 3-day trial memberships to our website, so you can try it for 3 days. Try before you buy. But before you make comments, you need to know who we are. You need to know about our work. And please don't make nasty comments.
Well, I just delete them anyway.
Doesn't really matter. So we just get rid of you. But the thing is remember, if what you see in other people is within yourself. So if you're saying nasty things, you need to take a look at yourself. And you need to take care of yourself, because you can't say that you're going to make the world a better place by throwing out vitriol at people.
That's very true. Very, very well said for you.
Yeah. So until next time.
This is us signing off. Bye.
Bye.